guys, it's Seafood Mantis here. You're listening to the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, only on the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel. Jay, let's go!
Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast. To all of our American listeners, happy 4th of July weekend. And just for you, as a special celebration for the birth of your country and for a celebration for all of our listeners, indeed, he is back. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone. How the hell are you?
You know, it's funny. I'm not able to make a couple of weeks, and then I come back and I find out that the episode we're doing essentially involves Eric Bischoff eating Mae Young's pussy on national television. So let's do this, bud. Let's hop right on into it. I'm fired the fuck up. It's been a couple of weeks.
I have a feeling I'm going to need this week. If you're coming in that hot from the beginning, I guess we're going to in for a doozy this afternoon.
Oh, bud, you have no idea. I have a couple of weeks of pent-up rage built up that I am just going to... I don't even care if your card's good. I'm just going to shit all over it for fun.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait. I booked this card with thinking that maybe Tyler was going to step in and be the other man in the booth, and I got you back, which is great, but having a pent-up raged Tyrone is... we'll see how I fare here.
It's like having a gazelle in a moose's body. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one. So, ladies and gentlemen, this week on the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, we are actually covering an event that's still from June. Typically, we like to cover events that are in the month's time frame that we're in, but due to some technical difficulties and scheduling conflicts this week, we are going to cover WWE Bad Blood, the pay-per-view from 2003. That was a Raw brand exclusive pay-per-view. This one comes to us from the Compaq Center in Houston, Texas on Sunday, June 15th, 2003. But before we get into all that, we want to briefly touch on, as we alluded to at the top of the show, this is, America's birthday. This is the 4th of July, and it's pretty significant in the history of wrestling as well. So I thought we'd take a couple of minutes just to briefly touch on some of the memories that maybe Tyrone has and myself have coming into this weekend. And I know for myself in particular, it's always that famous body slam on Yokozuna on the USS Intrepid, going on to the Lex Express, and then to SummerSlam 1993. And then, of course, who can forget talking about the Great American Bash tours that would happen around this time in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. So do you have any memories specifically of this time frame or this particular weekend in general?
2002, the return of Real American to national television. Hulk Hogan and Edge winning the tag titles from, I believe, the Un-Americans. Kind of made sense. It was kind of cool to see Edge live out his childhood dream, winning the titles with his hero, and we got to hear Real American, which, come on, I may not be the biggest Hogan fan these days, but you put that song, I had that song on last night, actually, and I was dancing around my apartment to it.
I have no doubt, and I shudder to ask what you were wearing.
I was ripping it off. Let's leave it at that.
Okie dokie. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Tyrone's strip show aside, I'm surprised he wasn't playing Shawn Michaels' theme song when he was performing for whomever he was performing for. We do have some really interesting moments and tentpole events that happened around this time frame and around this weekend in general, as Tyrone alluded to. Hulk Hogan winning the WWE Tag Team Championships with Edge. That's a huge one. Of course, you got to remember as well that I believe it was July 6th, 1996 was the beginning of the NWO. Hulk Hogan famously turned on Sting and Randy Savage at the Bash of the Beach pay-per-view. That's a huge moment. What are your memories of the NWO? We're coming on the 25th anniversary of the NWO forming. How do you feel about that particular moment, how it's lived up in history?
It's the greatest faction of all time. I will put the NWO over the Four Horsemen, D-Generation X, Evolution, the LWO, the BWO. NWO is the best thing that ever happened to professional wrestling. It made it cool again between that and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, what's cooler than watching Hollywood Hulk Hogan in his street black tights that he would walk around the streets in versus his red and yellow ones. It was great. It was great. It was goddamn great.
Yeah, you get no argument from me. I have to just correct myself. It was actually July 7th, not July 6th. So we are in the same week. Absolutely, to your point, I mean, the NWO changed the face of wrestling. You can argue that 1996 is one of the most pivotal years in the history of the business, between the NWO formation and, of course, Steve Austin's rise to popularity. It really was a absolutely game-changing year for the industry as a whole, was it not?
I don't know if I would say a game-changing year in 96. I think 96 leading into 97 was, but you look at Austin. Austin didn't hit his rise till 97. 96, he won the King of the Ring. He was kind of getting there, but the King of the Ring is all he really did. And then he fucking met up with the shitman Hart, and we all know what happened there. Don't really care to talk about him anymore.
Well, I don't know. I tend to think that 96, if you look at, especially, it's within about 2 weeks, these two things happened. Austin wins the King of the Ring, and then the NWO kind of becomes a thing, and Hogan joins Hall and Nash. I tend to think that 96 is pretty pivotal.
Can you imagine if Mabel ended up actually being the third man and not Hulk Hogan? What we would be talking about right now?
Or if Triple H had won the King of the Ring.
Well, I mean, that happened a year later, so that at least did happen. But come on, Mabel, Hall, Nash, NWO. I shudder to think what that would have done. I feel like it would have gone the way of Retribution.
I'm still not 100% convinced that was even a thing. I think that was one of Dave Meltzer's theories, but then again, I don't necessarily think it was a thing either, because if you could do Hogan, why the hell would you get Mabel? But I'm just toying out there, bud. I'm throwing something out there. I want you to bite on the line. Can you imagine if it was Mabel? Would the NWO have been as big? Would it have developed into what it became with the NWO Hollywood, the NWO Wolfpack, the hybrid at the two, going into a different company 5-6 years later? Would we still be talking about it in 2021, or would it just be a footnote in the past? I think it'd be a footnote for sure. I think that even if you had done it with Sting, it wouldn't have had the same impact, because the whole narrative, I think, and Bischoff kind of disputes this, he kind of always has claimed that the idea of the NWO were these guys that had been disgruntled in WCW, left WCW, and made a huge name for themselves in the WWF, and then come back to seek revenge. Whereas I think most people kind of see it as, well, the WWF is invading the WCW without actually coming out and saying it. So I think you had to have another Fed guy, especially a guy the name recognition value of Hulk Hogan, come in and join as the third member. I think that's the only way it really works. The only other guy, and I know you don't want to talk about him, but the only other guy I could see it working with was Bret. If Bret had come in and joined Hall and Nash in, say, the fall of 1996 instead of Hogan, I think that would have been a huge deal as well at the time. But I think for sure Hogan joining was the straw that stirred the drink in that particular scenario.
I think Bret only really would have been a big coup at that point, just because it would have been another person kind of invading. Hogan had already been there for a couple of years, so you bring in Bret, it's on par with bringing in Mabel.
Oh, come on. It is not on par with bringing in Mabel. I know you don't like Bret, but come on.
Did you miss me, Jay? Tell me you missed me. Tell Daddy you love him.
I don't know. I'm still trying to get over the fact that you were toying around over there.
All I do is toy around, baby. That's all I do. They're all over the place.
Yeah, Tyrone collects action figures, ladies and gentlemen, before you get any kind of dirty thoughts in your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, as well, on top of that, we have another couple of moments to talk about. What are your memories of the Lex Express and that whole USS Intrepid power slam to Yokozuna, or the scoop slam? Jeez, easy for me to say today. I've only had 2 sips of beer.
Okay, so that happened in 93, so I would have been 7. I remember it happening, and as a kid, I thought it was really cool that Luger got the chopper to come in, save the day, rah, USA, slams the evil Japanese villain, becomes the next... Like, they wanted him to be the next Hulk Hogan. We all know that. I thought the Lex Express as a kid was cool. But now that I'm an adult looking back on it, I I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Lex Luger in ring. Never thought he was a good worker. He clearly didn't get over to the point that they wanted him to get over. Otherwise, he would have had a run with the title.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think the Lex Express is one of the more talked about, but also failed experiments in WWF history.
Oh, without question, I don't disagree with that at all. My thinking about it though is I think that they were just trying so hard to find a hit, to find something that was going to get them into, profitability. Well, they were profitable, but get them back to where they were, say, 3 or 4 years earlier. They were grasping at straws to find anything, and Luger seemed to be the appropriate choice. A lot of stops and starts there with different people as well. I actually don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I did enjoy it for what it was. And the ride was kind of cool as we approached SummerSlam and all that kind of thing. I think it was the right decision not to put the title on him. And I would actually like to learn more about it. I'm really looking forward to that WWE Icons Lex Luger episode, because I think they're going to shed a lot of light as to what was going on in that time frame behind the scenes. I think it'd be really interesting to watch.
I mean, they tend to knock those things out of the park. I've only seen the Yokozuna one. I'm not gonna lie, Jay. I haven't even had time to watch the Rob Van Dam one yet. So when the Luger one comes out, I will finally sit down and watch them. But I I just don't care enough about Luger and that whole thing. Yeah, sure, I'll probably learn something here and there, but 93, as much as I love it, because you and I both have this weird love for WrestleMania 9, we've spoken about that a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I also think 93 is a shit year. It's a great year for some reasons and a horrible year for others. And for me, the great was the undercard. The main events were terrible. Tag team wrestling was great because the heavenly bodies existed at that point. But overall, you look at the title pictures, you had Yokozuna and Luger, you had Yokozuna and Hogan, Yokozuna and Bret Hart. What was the Survivor? Oh, there was no at Survivor Series. It was the Foreign Fanatics versus the All Americans. Like, the main events weren't good.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't disagree with that. I can't really think of one particular pay-per-view main event from 93 that I thought was particularly good. Yeah.
King of the Ring, Bret and Bam Bam.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's fair. You know, every match in that tournament with Bret, I thought was really good. That was a really, really good expose of Bret because of him having 3 different matches with 3 different types of wrestlers. It really showcased his ability. You know, that match with Perfect at King of the Ring might be their best match I've ever seen.
Yeah, I can't remember who he took on in the first round, to be perfectly honest with you.
Fairly certain it was Razor.
Oh, shit, you're right. Or you're wrong. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up right now. I'm going to take your word on it.
It was Razor, and then Razor and Bret faced each other at Royal Rumble as well.
At the Rumble for the title, yeah.
Match.
No, but that wasn't the main event. The main event was the Rumble match. And the Rumble match wasn't good.
No,
you had that youngster upstart Carlos Colon making his debut.
That's indeed the case. You did, absolutely. So, I mean, I can't really think of, other than talking about the Great American Bash, you know, with the War Games and all that kind of thing. I think that's been covered pretty extensively, specifically by our counterparts over at the Counted Out 7 podcast. I know that they've done a Great American Bash list over there and talked about the War Games quite a bit. So if you want to hear some detailed insight about the War Games and about the WCW Great American Bash Tour, as well as the pay-per-views, you should hop on over and check them out. I think absolutely they do a great job covering events of the past, much like we do. And again, we want to thank Tyler for jumping on and helping us out to get over the hump the last few weeks. And we banged out some pretty good content, I feel like.
Yeah, you guys did all right. It wasn't as good without me, but shout out to Tyler for filling in. He did me proud with the ECW one, I'll tell you that.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. So, my friend, are you ready to get on to this rebook this week?
Oh, bring it on. Bring on this fucking senior citizen Pornhub fantasy that I don't know. Was this an Eric Bischoff thing? Was he into old women? I guess so, because he did try to seduce Linda McMahon at one point. So yeah, let's do it. Let's hop right on into this devilish fantasy.
Okay. Well, what are your memories of 2003 going into this? Now, we had just, if your memory serves you correctly, I know you've been gone for a little while, but you had just rebooked Judgment Day 2003, and that was a fun episode. I enjoyed your rebooking of that, and of course, I've booked my card based on that. So I figure that 2003 is fairly fresh in your mind. What are your memories of this time frame here, going into the summer of 2003?
Well, it's definitely different than what I rebooked, because now we're on the Raw brand versus the SmackDown brand. So if we're just talking about Raw, La Resistance, one of the greatest tag teams ever, was kicking ass and taking names. You had
Really?
weird. I love
One of
them.
the greatest tag teams ever.
Of this generation, 100%. I don't care what anyone says. You all hate on me for fucking Mr. Perfect and Goldust. How about La Resistance? Y'all want to bring it on that too? Do it. At me. I don't fucking care.
I don't disagree with you that they're one of the greatest teams of this era, but not of all time.
Yeah, well, you can just grow up and learn how to accept tag team wrestling, Jay. But that being said, 2003 was also a weird time where you had a lot of returns happening. You had Kevin Nash come back from his 74th torn quadricep. You had, was Goldberg? Yeah, Goldberg was around at this point. You had Goldberg. You had The Rock was around at the beginning of 2003. Steve Austin was retiring in 2003. It was a year of transition where you had John Cena showing up, Randy Orton, Dave Bautista, all these guys doing their thing at the beginning of the year. Evolution was going. Scott Steiner was all of a sudden a thing, and then he wasn't. And as we'll see later in this show, he is fighting for Stacy Keibler's managerial services versus the world title. 2003 was just a very, very weird year. It did, however, give us, in my opinion, one of the more underrated wrestlers that is on this card, and I hope you left him there. I will not say a name right now, and we will talk about that later.
Okie dokie, Smokey. Well, without further ado, I think we'll get into this WWE Bad Blood pay-per-view event, a Raw exclusive. As I said, it was Sunday night, June 15th, 2003, from the Compaq Center in Houston, Texas. Now, Tyrone, I don't know if you remember how this works, but typically what happens is you'll read the actual card, and we'll go match by match, and then I will tell you what's been replaced. Are you ready to go, pal?
Cool. I sure am. Are we starting off with Sunday Night Heat, or are we going right into it?
We're going into Sunday Night Heat.
All right. Well, originally on Sunday Night Heat, we had a singles match of the women's division with Ivory defeating Molly Holly. What do we have in its place, Jay?
We have a mixed tag team matchup with Molly Holly and Christopher Nowinski going up against Val Venus and Ivory.
Okay. I don't know if I like this, but walk me through it.
There's not a lot of a story to it. Typically, the Heat matches are pretty quick. It's just a match to get the crowd up. It's short, snug. Molly and Ivory brawl on the floor. Val Venus hits the money shot. Nowinski for the pin. Winner of Ivory and Val Venus. Just a way to get the crowd up and going.
Okay, so we're going to have a problem with this going down the road. I can already tell you that, but we'll get to it. I get it. You put Val Venus on the card. Not mad at that. Anytime you're getting Molly Holly and Ivory in the same ring, it's cool. Chris Nowinski, I didn't hate the guy. Like, so many people shat all over him. But if you ask me, he was a million times better than Maven on Tough Enough.
No, I agree with that. I can already tell right now that you are hoping that Rodney Macca stayed on the card.
125%.
And you will be disappointed, my friend.
Well, Jesus Christ, here we go. Let's just get into it then. The next match that was supposed to be on the card that Jay's already burst my fucking bubble with, Chris Nowinski and Rodney Mack taking on the Dudley Boys. What horrible dumpster fire did you put in its place?
We have, for the World Tag Team Championships, La Resistance defending their championships against the Dudley Boys in a flag match.
Boo! Flag matches are fucking dumb.
Okay.
We went through a whole gimmick about Texas death matches on every goddamn card. I will take a whole thing about that over one fucking flag match. This is dumb. I hate everything about this. You better have La Resistance win.
Mm-hmm. Well, after RVD and Kane lost their rematch from Judgment Day on Raw, La Resistance continues their anti-American rhetoric. The cocky young Frenchmen offer up a challenge for Bad Blood, an open challenge, and the Dudley Boys oblige them, with Austin adding the caveat of a flag match. The match is mostly dominated by the Dudleys, with the heels on the run. After a brutal announce table spot that sees Devon double powerbombed, Dupree nails Bubba with a baguette, knocking him out. Grenier captures the flag.
Okay, no. I'm going to stop you there. You had him knock him out with a baguette?
Yes, I did.
You've worked in the food industry, my friend, and I know you've eaten a fair share of baguettes. What kind of baguette are you giving them that they're knocking them out with?
Why are you interrupting me? I'm not done.
I don't care. Because that called for an interruption. Jesus Christ,
let me finish.
A baguette?
Let me finish. Grenier captures the flag for the victory. After the match, as the Dudleys come to, a dazed Devon attempts to break the baguette, revealing that a steel pipe was concealed inside of it. Your winners, and still World Tag Team Champions, La Resistance.
Well, I'm glad that they won. I think this is stupid. It's a flag match, which I hate. It's a loaded baguette. God damn it. At least a briefcase makes sense. A purse makes sense. But a fucking baguette? Did they at least serve some nice wine and brie on the side too? Was there going to be poison in that just in case? This is out there. This is dumber than anything I've ever booked, and that's saying something.
Yeah, I thought you'd actually appreciate this, but that's fine. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I mean, who has among us hasn't been knocked out by a pastry or a bread? Some sort of a carb.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say there, Chief. This is just new level stupid. This is Russo level. You're on. This is how you're starting the fucking card off. Jesus Christ, I'm already hot. Are we ready to go on to the next one?
We sure are, pal.
Well, this is going to be a fun one because this is Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner taking on Test for the managerial services of the one and only Stacy Keibler. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this stayed and you put Stacy on a poll or something like that. What did we do?
Well, I don't think you're going to like my booking much better. For the Intercontinental Championship, we have Christian defending the championship against Scott Steiner.
This on paper is one of the worst things I have ever heard in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before you get into this, I'm just going to give my 2 cents because who knows, maybe you'll sway me afterwards. I doubt it, but who in their right mind is clamoring for Christian and Scott Steiner? Christian's a hell of a worker. Scott Steiner's a terrible worker. This is going to be a one-sided thing of Christian getting the shit kicked out of him and then making a fucking comeback. I guarantee you that's what you're doing right now. Steiner's going to dominate most of the match. Christian's going to come back, hit an unprettier, and take the win. I don't even know who the heel or the face is in this one. I guess Steiner was kind of the face, but this is... Yep, go. I'm done. You can talk.
So you're literally going to sit there and tell me that you think Scott Steiner was a terrible worker?
In 2003? Yes, the man could barely lift his fucking legs. I think it was on this goddamn card when he fell off the apron trying to jump and hit Test, and JR had to cover for him and went, oh, he went a little low, tried to hit that chop block. No, he just lost control of his fucking body and fell.
Okay, so Christian had unsuccessfully interfered in the finals of the Intercontinental Championship at Judgment Day on behalf of Chris Jericho. Goldust won the title. In his first title defense, Goldust was challenged by Christian on Raw. Christian used Stone Cold Steve Austin's cooler at ringside and waffles Goldust in the head to secure the victory. After the win, Christian proceeds to wear out Goldust with a chair until Scott Steiner appears to make the save. The match is signed for Bad Blood, with both men costing each other victories leading up to the pay-per-view. The match serves as a vehicle to get Christian over as an antagonistic heel. Christian bumps all over the place for Steiner, but is ultimately awarded the quick pin after escaping from an attempted Steiner recliner into a Mahi straw cradle. Your winner, Christian.
So not only do you give me this garbage fucking match, but you take the title off of Goldust with a cheap win for Christian, not a clean win, hitting him with a cooler, and then you need Scott Steiner to come out and save Goldust, who is a hell of a worker, doesn't need Scott Steiner, could take out that creepy little bastard from fucking Orangeville anytime. I hate this book. Oh, Jay, this card is pissing me off.
Good. I'm happy.
Oh, I bet you are. I bet you are. This is the worst thing you've ever done to me, and you made me do a fucking Kevin Nash show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
All
wait,
right.
Kevin Nash is in the main event of this card. We're going to have so much fun later.
You need to settle down, my friend. Settle.
Okay, well, the next match was supposed to be Booker T and Christian for the Intercontinental Championship, but clearly that's not what we're getting. So enlighten me. What wonderful, wonderful thing do we have here? Are we bringing back a Texas Death Match? Are we getting the Stooges on the card somehow? Is Gerald Briscoe winning the world title? Just enlighten me.
The next match on the card is a number one contenders match for the World Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Test and Lance Storm versus Rob Van Dam and Kane.
Okay, so here's my issue with this. I don't hate the match, I'll tell you that. But were Test and Storm, were they still a thing at this point, or were the Un-Americans broken up? Test was doing his own thing with the testicles. I can't believe I just said that. And Stacy Keibler in that feud with Steiner. Like, I don't think that they were even remotely a team at this point.
They weren't really a team at this point, but they never really had a breakup or anything like that. And as well, I don't really have that managerial services of Stacy thing coming into play here. That's why I kind of had Steiner on his own with Christian. And Test is kind of still with Stacy, but they're not really playing up that angle right now. It's not really a thing as of right now. It's just sort of Test he's kind of a heel, kind of a face. He's dipping a toe in one end and out the other because Stacy's obviously super over, but nobody really likes Test at this point. So I thought it was completely fine to have Test and Lance Storm team up together for this one.
I mean, let's be fair. With the exception of the 1999 Stephanie McMahon wedding, did anybody like Test ever?
I was always a fan of him. I thought he did pretty good in-ring work. He was a good worker.
To me, he was just there. Like, I'll never forget being at a SmackDown taping in Toronto, and it was him versus Billy Gunn. And it was the first time ever I heard a chant saying, "This match sucks." And that's kind of how I associate Test.
Yeah, I've seen him do some pretty good things, and he could fly. He could do that big elbow off the top and all that kind of thing. He had a really, really solid big boot. So I was a fan of his work.
That's fair. I'm not going to shit on him. He's no longer with us. I don't want to speak ill of the dead like that. So, yeah, walk me through the match. I'm not mad at this match right now for the first time.
So I have a match announced by Bischoff on the Go Home Raw after RVD and Kane protest their loss of the tag team titles. This match serves to further the impending breakup of RVD and Kane. A fairly short match with both teams taking turn on offense. The finish comes when Kane chokeslams Storm. Test breaks up the pin, and as RVD goes for a spinning heel kick on Test, he nails Kane accidentally. RVD is the legal man and is the recipient of a vicious big boot from Test for the pin. Your winners and number one contenders, Test and Lance Storm.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sure. It's a match. It happened. Somewhere down the line, they're going to get a tag title match. It's probably going to happen on Monday Night Raw the night after, and La Resistance will beat them with a baguette. Because that's their goddamn gimmick now, right? I don't know. What else is a nice French cuisine? Are they going to get some frog legs and somehow put some firecrackers in them and throw them at them and they're going to explode in their face? Yeah, cool. Next, that's good. That's good. You know what we need to do right now, Jay?
What's that?
No, I already did that.
Okay.
We need to talk about something that's been happening throughout this show.
Okay.
And I kind of want to touch on it now because I feel like it's going to make me laugh. So let's get into this redneck triathlon.
Okay.
I
Isn't
hope
that
it's still...
isn't
What?
that really what we do every week?
Yeah, it is. But I mean, is this staying on there? Is it still a pie eating contest and a burping contest and a pig pen fun?
Yes. It's all
Okay.
staying.
All of it, like, verbatim is staying?
Yes, it was fun. I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it. I left it. I was entertained by it.
I just love the horrible dubbing of the burping. Like, they literally just open their mouths and you just hear the sound effects coming over the speakers. That made me laugh.
I never
As we...
I
No,
never
go ahead.
realized you'd done any voice work for the WWE, so
If it were me, trust me, you would be able to fucking smell it too, not just hear it.
oh god, I know it. I've been in the same room with you twice on Sunday.
And then I love the fact that the pie eating contest was to quote unquote cover or quote Steve Austin. You know what The Rock likes, what he talks about, poontang pie. And fucking Bischoff thinks he's going into the ring to I can't believe I'm saying these words on a goddamn wrestling podcast. Go down on and enjoy oral sex on a younger woman. But boy, does Steve Austin have a different thing going. And out comes at the point, probably what, 85-year-old Mae Young?
And your point being what?
I'm not mad at it. I'd totally go for Mae Young. Not gonna lie, I'd hit that.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that her last name was Young, wasn't it?
Well, did you hear the story of what she actually did to Bischoff for this?
Yeah, of course, with the sardines.
Yeah, she legit put sardines in her underwear when she rubbed her crotch on his face.
Yeah, and she was like running late for the segment, so like Michael Hayes was the producer, and he's like, "Can we just do this on the way or something? Because you're taking way too long." And he was like, "No."
I love that so much. It makes Mae Young will always have a spot in my heart. She not only one of the toughest women that you'll ever hear about, but also seems like the sweetest human being ever with a sense of humor. We'll go out, be the cute grandmother that's going to cook you dinner and make biscuits and gravy for Sunday. And then on Monday, she's going to just beat the living hell out of you.
Yeah. She's like the female Stu Hart. Like, she's going to make you this delicious Southern meal, and then she's going to stretch you.
And so that's how it should be, man. Like, she's a fucking legend. You know what, Jay? I'm not going to lie. With the exception of one match on this original card and Rodney Mack, Mae Young was the highlight of this entire pay-per-view. This pay-per-view is garbage. I know you're going to disagree with me because you love Hunter, you love Kevin Nash, you love Hell in a Cell, you love Shawn Michaels, you love Ric Flair, you love Jericho, you love Goldberg. We're going to get arguments a lot coming up in the next few matches. I get it. So this is the nice break where we can just talk about our love for Mae Young.
You're putting a lot of words in my mouth right now. I never said this was a great card. I don't mind it for certain aspects of it, but no, it's not my go-to for, casual viewing. There is some really good stuff on this card for sure, but I think some of the names you mentioned there in that brief little tirade of yours were actually guys that you love more than I do. So
maybe one of them. Maybe the Nate. Yes, let's continue on. So the next match on the original card was La Resistance and Kane and Rob Van Dam, but that's not there now. So what do we got now?
The next match on the card is Kevin Nash versus Randy Orton.
Okay. I'm not going to shit on this yet. Keyword, yet. You're giving me, what was he at the time? Probably 40-ish, maybe. No, because Kevin Nash is in his 60s now. So he was probably mid-40s going up against a green 20-some-odd-year-old Randy Orton who was cocky as hell. I'm intrigued. I'm not going to say I like this, but I'm not going to say I hate this yet. So just walk me through it.
Well, Randy Orton, who had aligned himself with Flair and Triple H, costs Nash a match against Flair on the Raw following Flair's match with Hunter. So it's the week after that. Orton calls his shot going after Nash as a legend that needs to be killed. This would be the first of the Legend Killer's targets as he antagonizes Big Sexy in the weeks following. Orton makes Nash look like a monster and sells all over the place for Nash's big power spots. As we go back and forth, Nash gets Orton up for the jackknife powerbomb, and Orton counters into an RKO for the victory. Your winner, Randy Orton.
Was the RKO a thing yet at this point? Was that his finisher? I genuinely don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I think he was nailing guys with it in 2003. Yeah.
All right. I don't think it's going to be a good match to watch 100% because Kevin Nash, maybe in the 90s, could put out a decent match depending who he was working with. But in this era, there was no such thing as a good Nash match. Challenge me. I dare you. But I like that you put Orton over. I'll take that. I just thought Orton was injured at this time, and that's why he wasn't on the card.
No, he came out in canon and affected the outcome of the Flair-Shawn Michaels match. And he wrestled the next night.
Okay, I knew he was on the show. I just thought that it was a run-in spot because he couldn't perform.
I couldn't remember either, so I double-checked, and he wrestled the next night on Raw, so he was cleared.
All right, I'm not mad at this. It's Kevin Nash, but at least Kevin Nash loses, so let's see what you do with this one, though, with our good old friend Billy Boy, Bill Goldberg, going up against Chris Jericho. I didn't hate this match. I will say that. As far as a Goldberg match goes, it's decent. And the fact that it goes more than 4 minutes is mind-boggling.
Yeah, this match is staying exactly the same. I'm not changing it. I thought the build to it was good.
That's fair.
So I thought that it was appropriate to keep it on there. Like I said, I thought the build was good. I thought that there was some story there from WCW that you could play on. I just didn't see any reason to change it. I thought it was a good way for both guys to get on the card. I mean, finally Jericho gets that big match with Goldberg. And I also thought that it was actually a well-worked match. So I didn't really see any reason to change it. Neither guy was doing a lot at this time. And you're still trying to establish Goldberg to the WWE audience. Jericho at this point was super well established as one of the most over guys in the company. So I didn't see any reason to do anything with it.
No, I agree. And honest to God, a loss to Goldberg for Jericho did nothing to hurt him. It's Goldberg. We all knew he was a monster. He was going to come in, destroy everybody. So give him a top name like a Chris Jericho without putting him in the title picture right away. It makes sense. I enjoy it.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Ooh, okay, now the match that we're all here for, because to me, this is the match of the night, and that is Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels. And if you kept Goldberg and Jericho, I have to assume you kept Flair and Michaels.
The next match on the card is the Nature Boy Ric Flair going up against the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Anything changing, or are we just kind of keeping
No,
it
we're
as
keeping
is?
it exactly the same. So we've talked about this before, you and I think that most people think about, when they think Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, they think of WrestleMania 24. And I'll never argue the point that that was one of the most important matches of both men's career. But if you want to see phenomenal in-ring work and you want to see a match that really shows us what a Flair-Michaels feud would have looked like, this is the match. Flair was still working at an extremely high level at this point. Obviously, Michaels was never better. So I thought this match was exceptional. I wish it had gone a little bit longer, and I also wish that it had been a clean finish. But I thought for the purposes of what we were trying to get to in the coming summer months with 2003 Raw brand, I was going to keep the finish as it was. I really, really enjoyed this match, though. And it's a favorite of mine to go back and watch when I think of Ric Flair matches. When he came back to the Fed in 2001, and then he started to work in 2002, there were those string of matches he had. He worked King of the Ring versus Guerrero. Then he worked Jericho at SummerSlam. I think he worked RVD at
Unforgiven.
Yeah, RVD at Unforgiven. Yeah. So he worked a lot of guys throughout 2002, and then he kind of stopped working for a bit. He became Triple H's number 2. Started working.
Actually, now that I think about it, it might have been No Mercy, because it was Kane and Triple H at No Mercy, and I feel like it was RVD, Triple H, and Unforgiven. So Yeah, I think it was No Mercy that it was Flair and RVD.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, unfortunately. But no, and the point is that he was working some pretty good matches. I mean, that match he had with Guerrero and that match he had with Jericho in the summer of 2002, they were really good. He looked tremendous. He was in great shape. He was doing some great in-ring work with tag teaming with Batista as well as a member of Evolution. And even into 2004, 2005, 2006, Flair was still working at a fairly high level, in my opinion. So I really enjoyed his last run in the WWE, and I definitely thought that this match with Shawn Michaels, I didn't get the impression that Shawn was carrying him. I thought that he was holding up to his end of the bargain. Whereas with the WrestleMania 24 match, I mean, obviously for the importance of it, it's always going to go down as the historical match between the two. But I thought this match was vastly superior in ring.
I know I might be in the minority here, but when it comes to Shawn Michaels' career, I kind of prefer his 2002 onward run to his 90s run. I think he worked a very different style, but he was still the showstopper. He was still giving it his all. And I don't know if it's because his attitude completely changed, but I feel like his in-ring was a million times better.
I don't think you're in the minority there. I think a lot of people feel that way. And I've thought about this before. I don't think you and I have talked too much in detail about this particular subject. But if I had to pinpoint one thing that made Shawn's matches better, the back half of his career, the 2002 through 2010, I think it's that he worked with a lot more cohesive psychology. I think that his psychology in matches was a lot better. I think that when you look at 95, 96, 97, not to say that he wasn't good in terms of psychology then, but I feel like a lot of times he was just trying to get in high spots. Whereas, the more mature, more evolved Shawn Michaels, he took his time more. He was a little bit more into the storytelling aspect of a match. Does that ring true to you or not really?
Oh, 100%. He's not looking out for just himself and trying to get his own shit in. He's actually trying to make the performance incredible, do the ballet, if you will, do the dance with everybody, work with his partner, not trying to just put himself over and bury half of the company, which he had a reputation for. When he came back, everyone says it was like working with a different human being. I just don't. My issue with Shawn Michaels is I feel like he believes his own hype a lot of the time with his old one. His new character, or not character, his new gimmick when he came back in 2002, he was putting on so many high quality matches. Nobody even thought it would happen. 2002 SummerSlam Triple H, incredible. Mania 19, Jericho, incredible. The list goes on and on. That feud with The Undertaker, the Ric Flair retirement match, this Ric Flair match, all of his shit with Triple H, it was all incredible. I can't say enough good things about Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels in 2003, and I'm very, very happy that you kept it on the way you did. If you had changed this, we'd be having a different conversation. I started this night off hot. I'm starting to calm down because I'm liking this. You've already had Kevin Nash on the card, so I know he's not in the main event. I know it's not Scott Steiner. I know where we're going with this main event, and I am genuinely excited. I just hope I'm not wrong. So, Jay, without further ado, why don't you give us the world title match on this pay-per-view? Jay may have had enough of my shit. All right, cool. That's fair. I come back. I do one episode with him. He's already over it. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I lost him. I don't know if he's just ignoring me, being a piece of shit that he can be. He needs to grow up. Or is he back now?
I was on mute. My apologies. I forgot that I was so compelled by your soliloquy there about Shawn Michaels that I muted myself and laid out, and now I'm back. Just before we get into the main event, we did have the final event of the Redneck Triathlon, which was, again, I thought a lot of fun, so we kept it on there. Never hurts to see Steve Austin crushing beer for the fans. It's always great for not only the fans in attendance, but of course, those of us at home that have a six-pack in front of them as well. So decided to keep that on there. But without further ado, our main event of the evening is for the World Heavyweight Championship. And it is a steel cage match. Booker T, your reigning World Heavyweight Champion, defending against the Game Triple H.
Now, can I ask why you did steel cage and not Hell in a Cell?
Because Hell in a Cell to me at this point had been so overdone. It was being done fairly frequently. We were already at the point in 2003 where we were doing Hell in the Cells a couple of times a year, and I felt like we needed to give it a rest. I love a good old-fashioned steel cage match. I've changed the rules of the steel cage match for this particular event, which I'm going to get into in a moment. But before we get into that, like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Hell in the Cell or steel cage?
It's kind of tough. It really depends. Like, they both have their merits. I know that Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was a couple of weeks ago, and I tried to watch it, but ever since they made the Hell in a Cells red, I don't know why. I don't care anymore. It doesn't look like a cage, so I'm not into it. So I guess to a degree, a cage match now, because it looks like a cage. It looks like it hurts. You can't get out of the ring. If you're getting thrown into it or thrown into the ropes, you're getting thrown into the actual mesh, which looks like it hurts a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll just walk you through this booking here. We have, after a successful title defense at Judgment Day, Booker T is poised to welcome a new challenger. Triple H avails himself of the goodwill he had with Bischoff and gets one last opportunity at the title. Austin interjects and decrees that this will be a steel cage match. No door, no escape. The only way to win is by pinfall, submission, or TKO. In a nod to cage matches from the 70s and 80s, we get an old-school bloodbath worthy of Texas Stadium in 1982. A very well-worked match with both men selling each other's offense. This is a blow-off, and as such, there's no suggestion of interference. Booker is ready and willing to pull out every stop to finally put this rivalry to bed. With a prone Triple H on the mat, Booker climbs to the top of the cage. Channeling legendary cage matches from moments in history, Booker attempts a Harlem hangover off the top of the cage. Triple H moves out of the line of fire. With both men physically spent, Triple H covers Booker T, who is unable to answer the 3 count after this death-defying miscue. Your winner and new World Heavyweight Champion, Triple H.
I don't know if I like that finish. I do and I don't. I totally get the realistic vibe of it, of he went for everything, missed, and Triple H just covers him because he's completely out. But as a fan, I don't think I would have liked that. Also, the one thing that you said that kind of made me think was there's no door. Well, how'd they get in the cage, Jay?
Cage was lowered after they both did their entrances.
All right, cool. I like that you thought about that. I don't know. When it comes to a cage match, I like the thrillingness of getting over it. I've always been the opposite, where I don't like a pinfall or submission in a cage. I like the escaping of the cage. You want to get rid of the door? That's cool. But I think it's a much more challenging thing for them to climb over it and get out of the cage.
I don't disagree with you, but if you look at the history of cage matches, you know, historically speaking, they used to only be that kind of match. There was no door. There was no escape over the cage. It was just to keep people from coming into the match. It was a blow-off. It was the 2 guys would fight until one guy was either pinned, submitted, or knocked out. It was not about trying to get over the top or get through the door. So I kind of like the idea. It was in a historical wrestling town, Houston, Texas. Let's bring back some historical, you know, wrestling gimmicks from years past that were maybe at one point tired, but are, you know, what's old is new again. So we're going to bring back this brand new kind of concept to this new generation of fans. I think it would have been something that both men would have, you know, lived up to the challenge of creating this kind of match, because sometimes I feel like in cage matches, when you have trying to escape through the door or over the top, it's a device that helps create drama in the match. So it would have been more challenging to keep the fans engaged with just doing a match in the cage without those particular rules at hand. So I like the idea of just doing something a little bit different. And again, the Hell in the Cell to me was a little bit overexposed at this point. So why not try something different and just do a bloodbath cage match?
Well, what was the last Hell in the Cell before this event? Was it Jericho and Hunter?
I don't remember offhand. It might have been, but then of course, well, no, because there was a Hell in the Cell between Taker and Brock Lesnar in 2002. Plus, we had the Elimination Chamber.
Okay, I see what you mean. Just that, I get it. But if you're going to say that's it's being overdone, and then you throw the Chamber in there, wouldn't a cage match also fall into that category as it's just being overdone completely? It's just another variation of a cage.
No, I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, I just think that cage matches at this point were kind of not done nearly as much. It was occasionally you'd get a cage match. And when you did get cage matches, they were usually kind of gimmick matches on Raw that didn't amount to much. So I thought that why not bring back the prestige of the cage match and just do a really, really solid, old school, territory era cage match.
No, I get it. I get it. It's fine. I don't like that Hunter went over, but I get why he did. I just wish that we had given Booker T a bit of a longer title run. But overall, I don't mind the main event. It makes sense. I'm not mad at it. The last half of your card, I enjoyed. The first half of your card can suck a lemon.
Okay. That sounds good to me. Well, I like lemons.
I do too, but it's just an old timely saying there, bud. Or is it suck an egg? I think it's suck an egg, which makes no sense to me. But
well, any way you slice it, we're gonna have some sort of either citrus or egg breath. One way or the other, we're doing good.
yeah, I guess that's true. Well, like I said, overall, you get a thumbs in the middle on this card, which is better than I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie. But that being said, Mr. J, it's been a minute since I've had to rebook something. So I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna tell you I'll do the next two.
Uh-huh.
So whatever you want to throw at me, I'm gonna do. And just know they're probably gonna get really ridiculous.
Well, they typically do. I'm fully expecting you to steal that baguette gimmick for something, so.
I don't know if I'll do baguette. Maybe I'll do a croissant.
Ooh. Yeah, you could do a croissant loaded with brass knucks.
Or I could put it in a t-shirt gun and have them shoot croissants at people. I like that too.
Well, I've got all kinds of gimmick ideas for La Resistance weapons now. Like, I can't wait for them to grab out of a chafing dish and pour a Bain Marie on somebody for the win.
Or just even just some bubbly. Some
or maybe
Perignon.
Like a freshly caramelized creme brulee. Throw that at somebody's face for the pin.
Oh, that one would actually hurt.
Yes, it would.
All right, what am I doing? Give me something to do.
Next week, which will be July 12th, you will be covering WCW Bash at the Beach 1998.
Okay. Okay. If memory serves correct, that's Karl Malone. But also, that's Kurt Hennig going against Goldberg for the WCW title.
Oh, God. Yes. Yes, it is. And so, ladies and gentlemen, spoiler alert, I don't even have to know. Goldberg's Jets will not be cooled at Starrcade 1998. They'll be cooled at Bash at the Beach 98 when Kurt Hennig is your new World Heavyweight Champion, and Goldberg will wallow in mediocrity ever since.
I mean, you never know. I could put the title on Karl Malone. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, well, it'd be better than David Arquette, that's for sure.
I don't know about that. I see what you're saying, but at the same time, Arquette lately has tried, and of course, if he's going to go out on a bang, he seems to be going out with Nick Gage, which Why the fuck would anybody want to fuck with Nick Gage?
Yeah, I watched that Dark Side of the Ring, and I have some interesting opinions about that fellow. I will keep
on a sidebar, do you see who he's about to go up against? Like, who keeps calling him out and has gone to the Indies and challenged him, and it's going to be a thing?
Was it Matt Cardona?
Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch this, but I want to watch this. Do you know what I mean?
Woo, woo, woo.
Oh, the broski's going to get the shit. Like, I genuinely think that Nick Gage might kill him in the ring.
I am not so sure about that. I don't know that just because Matt Cardona's been saddled with a certain type of gimmick, don't count your chickens, bud.
Oh, no. I fully believe that he can handle his own, but Nick Gage is a psycho. When I say kill him in the ring, I don't mean beat him up. I mean genuinely murder him.
Well, Nick Gage, to me, is like this generation's New Jack.
Yeah, same but different. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, this has been thirsty work this week. So, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some interesting new concepts on the way as well for the Good Friends, Better Enemies podcast. We love
but we're not gonna tell anybody about that right now. We're gonna let them sit on it.
Absolutely. We're not going to talk about it now, but I just wanted to let you know that we do have some fun content and some interesting ideas to kind of every once in a while change it up from rebooking. So we will bring those to you in the weeks and months to come. But unless you have anything else to say, my friend, where can they find us on social media?
They can find us. I got to remember how to do this, Jay. On Instagram at good_enemies, on Facebook at the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast, on Twitter at good_enemies, and on Pornhub watching Mae Young get her snatch eaten.
Oh my God.
And as always, only found on the Counted Out 7 YouTube channel, where you found us today. You like hearing about these kinds of things? We don't talk about senior citizen oral sex ever. This is a one-off, so I hope you all enjoyed that. And
the air. The air.
On the air. I don't know how I'm going to follow anything after that. So, Jay, close her off for us, bud.
Well, for myself, for Tyrone, for Tyler for filling in for us, for the Bad Blood Pay-Per-View 2003, for next week's covering of WCW Bash at the Beach 1998, and for grilled cheese sandwiches, the Good Friends Better Enemies podcast thanks you very much.
I love a good grilled cheese sandwich. But bye.
Aged cheddar.